All right, Sandra, let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer, Senior Vice President at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and former counterterrorism analyst at the U.S. Treasury Department. So we heard the Deputy Police Commissioner, Daughtry, talking about this. The Mayor of New York, Eric Adams, talked about it as well. He said, why is everybody the same? Was there a fire sale on those tents? So there's some organizing going on, a concerted organizing effort. What's the goal of that organizing? That's what we need to be asking ourselves, and of using disgusting terminology. Does this to you, in your previous investigations, appear to be a coordinated effort that's being funded by outside sources?
Absolutely. We've been watching this network now for the last 10 years at Foundation for Defense of Democracies. We started looking into who was behind this group known as Students for Justice in Palestine. And what we found was that there was an organization, an umbrella organization known as AMP, American Muslims for Palestine. They were previously based in Chicago, now based here in Falls Church, Virginia. They are the ones that created this network to begin with. It started with just a handful of campuses. There's now 200 campuses that have SJP. They use a lot of the same rhetoric. They use a lot of the same devices on campuses, the different means of protests. There is a lot of commonality that we see nationwide. They have been wielded as a student army by this group, and we're now seeing it reach a fever pitch.
And who is funding them?
Well, that's an interesting question, because AMP is a corporate not-for-profit. It's not a C3. They have a fiscal sponsor called Americans for Justice in Palestine. You get a sense of there's a lot of obfuscation going on. There's also there's a nonprofit in White Plains, New York called Westpac that gives to Students for Justice in Palestine. An obfuscated money trail, to put it mildly, but we can see that there are organizers behind all of this, and then a broader network of organizations that are supporting it as well.
And what's the ultimate goal?
Well, I think really it's to put political pressure on Biden.
Yeah.
But before Biden, I mean, the pressure was there for Trump. It was there for Obama. The idea is to wield that political pressure as much as possible. And we're seeing tactics that really do look like the 1960s revisited.
And they're promising to disrupt the DNC convention in Chicago this coming August, shades of 1968 and the Vietnam War protests. In terms of putting pressure on Biden, it seems to be working, because listen to what he said when he was asked about the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. Listen here.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
A lot of people are saying that is his very fine people on both sides moment, you know, is in the same way that Donald Trump was criticized for that, even though Trump went on to explain that he wasn't supporting white supremacists or neo-Nazis.
Yeah, and you can see right now that the president is kind of having a bipolar moment as it comes to the Israeli war effort in Gaza. On the one hand, we're now supporting with additional funding this very just war that the Israelis are fighting. At the same time, they're talking about issuing sanctions or withholding certain funds from units that are operating in the IDF, the very same army that we're looking to fund here. The president is trying to figure out how to walk a fine line. I think the message is muddled right now, and I do wonder whether these campus agitators have a role.
So the president is walking a fine line. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just looked at that line and walked right over it. Listen to what she said at the same event that the president was at yesterday in Virginia. Listen here.
It is especially important that we remember the power of young people shaping this country today, of all days, as we once again witness the leadership of those peaceful student-led protests on campuses like Columbia, Yale, Berkeley, and many others.
So she described them as peaceful student-led protests. This is the way the White House described those over the weekend. This blatant anti-Semitism is reprehensible and dangerous, and it has absolutely no place on college campuses or anywhere in our country. Ocasio-Cortez seems to be going, go team, I'm with you.
Yeah, she does seem to be saying that, but it's also amazing because she's the first person to admit that she doesn't really understand this conflict very well. I mean, she said so publicly, so she's out there supporting these protesters and the anti-Semitic rhetoric that they're spouting, while she doesn't, I mean, she will admit that she doesn't understand what she's talking about. It's really remarkable.
Well, what was it that Mark Twain said about 'tis better to keep one's mouth shut? And, well, Jonathan, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.